Good afternoon, Clover School District families. This is Dr. SHEILA Quinn. I want to say a big congratulations to our staff and students on a good first week back to school. The LEAP week was a tremendous gift to our teachers to have the time to get to know their students more deeply than we normally do the first week of school. As you may remember, the district reopening plan outlined new protocols in several areas that I'm going to review with you today. Transportation, meal services, instructional program, health and safety protocols, sanitation protocols, and communication. Additionally, we have asked all of our students and staff to sign the Clover Cares Pledge. This is a pledge to act in ways that respect the safety of all others, including staying 6 feet apart, wearing your mask at designated times during the day, monitoring your health, and staying at home if you're sick, and finally, reporting to the school nurse if you have a positive COVID test. The purpose of today's message is to provide our families and the community with a progress report on how we did the first 2 weeks of school, our staff week and our student week back. One thing we knew for certain at the outset of this school year is that the COVID virus would be present in our community, and therefore it could be present in our schools. Our charge was to control those variables we could reasonably control at school to keep our schools open for in-person learning as much as possible. So here are a few things we saw in our first week when we asked the question, how did we do? First, in our instructional program. LEAP Week had an excellent attendance rate. Thank you, parents, for sending your students to LEAP Week. Students and staff maximized their time together. At the high school, teachers and students established routines for on-campus and at-home learning. Some things we're still working on that may need some improvement is we're still trying to work on ways to get an accurate attendance record for students during their at-home learning days on the hybrid schedule. In the second area on our progress report, I want to talk to you about our health and safety protocols. So what did we do well? Well, parents, you did an excellent job notifying the school if the family had a positive case at home, and you successfully kept your children at home in those instances, and we want to thank you for that. Students and staff did a great job wearing their masks at the designated times on buses, at arrival, at dismissal, in the halls, and sometimes in class when needed. But some things we still are working on to get better at in the future weeks. Students and staff need to continue to practice social distancing while at school. Where we have maintained appropriate distance, we haven't seen positive cases or numerous quarantines. And then finally, the last area of improvement is the installation of the desk shields. It was delayed till the end of our LEAP week this week due to supply chain delays. The third area on our progress report is in transportation. So how did we do? Well, all bus routes were conducted safely and efficiently during our first student week back. Both the elementary and the middle school routes were only at 20 to 25% capacity, which means there was a lot of empty seats to keep students safe. 100% of the buses were also sanitized between routes. What are some areas we're still working on? We acknowledge that the bus information was sent out much later than we normally release it this year because we were doing bus registrations for seats. We will get better at that next year when we don't have a pandemic to factor in. Also, we're still adapting the morning and afternoon times for better accuracy. And finally, we are monitoring some of our dense neighborhoods for next week when we move to the AB day on the elementary school schedule. We want to make sure that we don't overload any buses. The fourth area on our progress report is our food service program. How did we do? 100% of the meals were served safely to students and to staff, and students ate in socially distant spaces or in their classrooms. What are some areas of improvement? Well, we're still working on setting the guidelines and the timelines for our virtual students to be able to pick up meals at a home school. We will notify our CVA families in the coming week when you can pick up your meals. Free and reduced lunch prices will be available for eligible families. And you may pick up meals at one school site, even if you have children who would attend multiple different levels. The fifth area on our progress report this week is sanitation. Buses and buildings were sanitized nightly with misters. Classroom wipes arrived so that they were able to be delivered into all classrooms, and our middle and high school students did a good job of wiping out before they moved to the next classroom. Custodians also did a great job cleaning the common areas 3 times per day. An area of improvement in the sanitation category is that we want to encourage our students to continue sanitizing and washing their hands frequently during the school day. And finally, the last category is communication. How did we do? On the positive side, 100% of known individuals with a positive COVID test were isolated. Contact tracing was successfully implemented with 100% of the known positive cases, and individuals who needed to quarantine were both verbally and in writing notified that they needed to quarantine. The district also successfully reported all confirmed cases with our staff and students to DHEC as required by Governor Henry McMaster's. Since August the 17th, the first 2 weeks of school, we have had 9 staff members and 8 students test positive across our district, which is less than 1% of both groups. Many of the cases and potential cases in these first few weeks were not contracted at school. They stem from large gatherings at home or in the community. We need our families to continue to practice social distancing, both in school and out of school, to prevent the spread of the virus. And that's a big area of growth for all of us. And finally, while the principal and the school nurse are conducting the contact tracing at school, it will be up to families and students to communicate close contacts within your family or extended family or with friend groups for off-campus exposures. Lastly, Clover School District, our theme this year at Convocation with all of our teachers and staff was "In It Together." We want to emphasize to you how much we are connected to you in this process, and you are connected to us in keeping our students and staff safe. We want you to know that we are working hard to do our part to follow all protocols and to be transparent with you on our progress. So I hope you will appreciate this week 2 progress report, and we look forward to reaching out to you again in the future. Have a good evening.